Viaduct. I'm your host, Chubbs McFarlane.
The opportunities are vast.
We have a crucial moment on which to engage in that study right now.
I'm your host here, Chubbs McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. I'm your host, Chubbs McFarlane.
It's much appreciated that you expected to have the opportunity to learn from one another.
Our stories are powerful and needed for the world.
It took a pandemic like this for us to think.
I have focused on using my art as a tool.
Because the opportunities are vast.
We have a crucial moment on which to engage in that study right now.
I'm your host here, Chubbs McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Unfiltered. Let's deal with this technical issue. All right. I hope you can all hear us now. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. I'm Chaps, and we have our great co-host Wes.
Hey, Chaps, how's it going today?
Hey, it's not too bad. We had a little sprinkle of snow, way to enliven the spring atmosphere. I like to see it that way. So, it's a great day. No complaint.
Yeah, well, it's been a pretty mild winter in Nova Scotia, hasn't it? And I guess it's still important to ease into the spring because once it gets here, things are going to get pretty exciting.
That's right. That's right. So lots of things happening today. Lots of things happening this week. Hopefully, we can touch on a few of those things before we get our guest, Nick, in. I'm so excited for the show today with Nick, and I know Nick is in the waiting room. But yeah, so what struck you this week in the news sphere, in the community vibes sphere, in the world around?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one thing that's really an interesting development in the United States right now is the access to voting rights. So, of course, voting equality is a cornerstone to democracy, and specifically American democracy, with way more positions in government being elected in the United States than in your regular country. And so access to the ballot box is such an important part of that. Right now on the federal level, there is a act to increase voter access to allow people to utilize their right to vote that's being made on the federal level, the John Lewis Voter Rights Act, Voter Rights Advancement Act. But then at the same time on the state level, you have a pretty old school Jim Crow-esque policies and laws being passed that are only going to make it more difficult for people to access the polls in a sustainable way. And so that really will only lead to discouragement, if not outright barriers to people, casting their ballot in future elections. That's in Georgia specifically that I saw that kind of counterproductive legislation being passed.
Yeah, certainly. That's a big one that has been in the news quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see how the Senate Democrats maneuver their way around the filibuster to pass that bill, which would in effect prevent the states from putting in place those Jim Crow style legislation to actually suppress the vote in the states. Crazy to think about it. When I was growing up, I thought, America was the beacon of democracy. I mean, it still is, but crazy to think that in the beacon of democracy, there are people who want to, subvert the same democracy. So quite interesting to watch. And I hopefully the Senate Democrats can get their way around passing that federal legislation. Yeah. Lots of things happening here in our own home soil. What was a big one for you?
Well, I mean, if we want to get to this super specific local news, I myself got a little bit of a controversial haircut, and I was wondering what our viewers might think about it. As you can see, I'm nice, prim, and proper up here and in the front and the sides, but I decided to keep a little bit in the back. If you might want, let me just grace the screens.
Oh, whoa,
You know,
whoa, whoa.
Yeah, I know it's hot news, right? And so, some people have educated me that this is but a ducktail, where I was going for a rat tail, but some people have informed me that rat tails get much, much longer.
Oh, so you just grow the ducktail into a rat tail then?
I mean, it's going to get there, something to work towards, right? And so I was wondering if we could poll our audience, if me kind of grasping the what I'm going to call the non-conventional beauty of the rat tail, am I ahead of my time or out of my mind?
Well, spin around again so our audience can see it, and we'll occasionally get you to demonstrate. But I'm liking it, West. It almost looks like a fishtail at the end there with the two little
fins.
Fins, yes, but I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I've been trying to keep this little top shop going. But I'll play with it a little bit in the next coming weeks. But I actually like the haircut. It's almost like a new version of the man bun. It's
So maybe I'm ahead of my time. Maybe I'm out of my mind.
I like the rhyme. Well, another big thing that happened locally that I think is something that crisscrosses an area that I know you are very interested in. We are all interested in it, but given the work you did at the Ecology Action Center, was the decision that came down from our Supreme Court, which actually, reaffirmed the Liberal government's position on carbon pricing. In fact, they said that it's constitutional. And so for those who have been seeking to overturn it, they've hit a road wall. So I thought that was significant, interesting in terms of Climate Collective. But I was hoping to get your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, well, it's important to clarify these things as the climate emergency as well as the biodiversity crisis are increasingly, playing out in our delicate world. So, it is interesting to keep those subjects alive and more informed in the public debate so that members of the public can hold their elected officials accountable and think about what role they can play in really enforcing and coming up with viable solutions for the dual crisis of climate change and biodiversity loss. Another related development is proposed changes to the Biodiversity Act in Nova Scotia. And I've seen a lot of great literacy building work being put out by my colleagues at the Ecology Action Center to really inform people about the implications of those changes and what part they can play in protecting our very beautiful and delicate environment.
Okay. Now, I'm sure our viewers, they've said, listen, this is the weekend. We've spent all week dealing with all this academic, political, social, economic nonsense. Tell me something that really lit a fire under your butt this week in terms of funny.
Funny?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not a specialist in funny, but I mean, there must be kind of something.
Come on now, Wes. You could throw me one.
Yeah. I mean, if you have something in mind, I'd welcome you to bring that out. I guess I don't dabble in funny that often, just incidentally.
Well, I don't know how funny this is, but I've been dabbling in a little bit of funny, and I'll just tell our viewers that maybe I will do a show for you one time. But I've really been reading these books and listening to these audiobooks around how to become funny. Well, it's not really about how to become funny, but one of them is titled Discover Your Funny Bone, right? And I must say, it's pretty interesting, listening to it. I'm trying to put some of the things I'm learning into practice, but I'm not going to do one right now just because I'm not yet there yet, okay? So I'll give you a little real show in subsequent episodes. But, so that has been my little dabbling into the funny sphere.
All the best in your studies.
Thank you. So I'm sure our viewers are more excited about our guest. So I'll let you take that on.
All right. Well,
Introduce him.
today, Mark, I have it in good authority that our guest, Nick Kernick, is a multi-talented and enterprising individual. He's someone I've looked up to for some time now, since we grew up as cousins. Nick Kernick is a graduate from St. Mary's and Acadia University and was recently named an Employee of the Year for the large telecommunications company where he works. In recent years, Nick has demonstrated a notable talent in photography, producing voluminous albums of intriguing and stimulating shots. Out of an evident love of the art of photography and how it can bring people together, Nick has also been involved in the community group Get Out and Shoot in Toronto. I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing more in today's interview. So Nick, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today? Classic. We got a mute off the bat. How's it going, Nick? I believe you're unmuted.
There you go.
There we are.
Now? There we
Yes.
go. Classic. You're right. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You know, excited for today's show and what we can talk about the art of photography. And Chebs, it's my pleasure to introduce you to my friend, my cousin, Nick Kernick, and likewise.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on.
I must say there's a slight resemblance to
Between us.
his name just flew off my head.
Oh yeah, Nick and so you're talking about someone else not involved in the interview?
No, not involved. To younger bro.
Liam.
Liam. Yes. I could tell there was a slight resemblance there. I don't know if it's actual or if just because you said your cousin, it just came to my forefront.
Yeah, I can see the resemblance there. So yeah, like just we can start off with a kind of a broad question of how long you've enjoyed photography as a hobby, Nick.
Sure. So basically all my life, I've always had sort of a camera around as far as I can remember. There's a certain point in time where I probably took it more seriously and started investing in gear and doing more trips and things with photography. But I've always had a camera, whether it was going to the beach or going to the cottage, the family cottage we went to, there's always a camera around that I had, big and small. So it goes back as far as I can remember.
Yeah, it is kind of like a universally enjoyable hobby. You know, everyone kind of feels the need or the desire to pick up a camera at one point or another and kind of capture a moment. But it's something that gets much better with focus and skill. So I was wondering if you could explain kind of an early point in your experience with photography where you feel like you kind of took a step forward in your technique or approach in photography.
Yeah, I think it's the way you think about photography, the purpose, why you're doing it. I think when I was a kid, I was looking at like waves and flowers, kind of somewhat meaningless photography, just sort of things I see around. But eventually start thinking about why you're doing it, the purpose, the story behind it. And I think for me, when I really started taking into more of a serious thing for me was when I moved to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I used it to kind of to explore the city. It was a good excuse to get out of the house and walk around and see different places. So from then I was sort of documenting the city that I just kind of moved to. And that was sort of the purpose behind that, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Chebs? Do you have much of a background in photography? I mean, everyone feels the urge to capture a moment from time to time. And with the increasing amounts of technology that we have to do so, I mean, everyone kind of tries their hand at photography now and then.
Yeah, I actually started to pick an interest in photography, but more so just video production generally. So I guess that's where my interest peaked on the video. But I started out, with photography. I used to own a camera as far back as when I was just done high school. And then we used to wash, we used to still wash the photographs to have it come out. So there was that. And then when I came here, I kind of was onto other things. But yeah, recently I started to pick an interest just because people always comment that my phone has a good camera. So I take lots of pictures. I don't usually post all of them or most of them, but I do have a lot of pictures that I take.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it's funny, different kind of stages in your life that you get into that kind of motivate you to take different types of pictures. Maybe someone in their youth is kind of subsumed within the trend of taking pictures of your food and kind of posting that out to the world to let people know what you're up to, maybe the selfie or two. Then when getting into an adult life, you kind of are much more geared towards family photos, capturing the moments of maybe a new or growing baby, which I've seen lots of those coming from your family, Chebs. And then, yeah, kind of so on and so forth, how the kind of different things that are catching your interest are kind of finding their way into your lens. So how have you found that your kind of tastes in photography have developed over time, Nick?
It's a great question because I think it's an important one to think about your taste and your style. Because I think for me, what most people should do and what I did is you explore all types of photography. There's so many different types of photography. There's portraits, there's landscape, city, urban, astro. And so for me, I think I explored all of those. And then eventually I decided one was the kind of type that I liked the most and focus on that one. Because I think the biggest photographers around the world, the big well-known photographers, one thing you notice from them is they always have a certain style. And if you look at their portfolio, their Instagram, you'll see they have a kind of carrying over of style that you can kind of detect across all of them. So I think at some point I leveled on the landscape photography for myself as being the one that I like the most. And that's what you'll see on my Instagram, my social media. That's what I've really focused on now.
Great. And then at one point, did you mention astro photography?
Yes, yeah. So I have done a little bit of that, not a ton of that, but I've done a little bit of, we've done a few get out and shoot meetups, I'm sure we'll talk about that, where we've gone out to the middle of nowhere and shot the stars. And it's, once you go to these areas, they're called dark sky reserves, and you can't see all the sky until you actually go there. If you're in Toronto or anywhere in the city, you're gonna see some stars, but not the entire sky lit up with stars. So once you go there and shoot that, it kind of blows you away when you see it. So I have a little bit of that, not a ton of that experience, but it's something I'd like to try more of too. Goes along with the landscape stuff.
Yeah. And do you need like a special camera for that?
Actually, no. You probably want a wider lens if you have one, but aside from that, as long as your camera has some sort of manual features, most of them do. Most DSLRs have those. You can shoot the stars, no problem. The phones now can even do it, which is amazing. But really, it's any kind of DSLR mirrorless camera these days can do the stars, no problem.
Yeah. Technological advancement really is enabling everybody pretty much to become a photographer to some degree. Could you maybe give our viewers a bit more of the taste of the technical aspects of photography and let us know what different devices you've used, cameras, lenses, and other gear? Sure,
yeah. That's the beauty of photography, is really any device you use can be used for photography. Your phone, your camera. There's a low bar to kind of get into it because you can use your phone. As you get more into it, you'll find yourself probably spending more money if you want to. You can spend a lot of money. In terms of what I've used, I've gone from a DSLR camera, a mirrored camera, to a mirrorless camera. And I've mostly stuck to Canon cameras. And I use generally 3 lenses. It's all I need for most of my shots. But there is a whole catalog of lenses you can choose from if you'd like. But I would say, and the best camera you have is the one on you. That's the kind of the saying people use. Right. Could be your phone, could be your point and shoot at a concert because you can't bring your big camera in there, for example, or this big camera that you paid a lot of money for that's kind of in your back pocket or your backpack. So that's the thing. Again, the gear, it matters to a point, but also doesn't matter at all in some cases too. Yeah, the best camera is the one you got. What do you think about that, Chebs?
Well, I think that's very, very interesting, but appropriate because you make the best with what you have, right? But you know what? I started to find out that photography and it's not cheap. It's not a cheap hobby or art form because cameras are very expensive. I tried looking into cameras and it was like, they were priced very, very expensive. Then before you add in accessories. But more importantly, I wanted to ask you this. What do you, what drives what you pick to shoot? So you pick up your camera, you're a first timer, you know, you strap it the way, I like the way you have it strapped in the pictures on the poster. It looks really cool. But say you have it strapped that way, you're going down the street, why are you not shooting everything that you see?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I have two sort of passions. I mentioned the landscape photography. I also enjoy the urban street photography. And for that, I may have an area in mind or a certain thing I want to shoot. But generally, I kind of go out the door and walk and follow the light around. That's all it is. For me, it's often there's no one thing. I just kind of walk around. You see something you like, then you pull your camera out and shoot it. But I think with time, you take less photos, but better photos. You're not taking 1,000 photos of one walk. You might take 200 or 50 photos because you're more disciplined on what you shoot, because you know that this shot here, it's interesting, but not enough that you never even share it. So maybe you wouldn't take it. You look for something else. But it's and then the other way is for me, the photo you saw on my profile here with the strapped in, that's doing kind of more of like a hiking or a landscape mission where you actually are going to a peak or going to a certain waterfall or something. And that's more, I guess, of a purpose or of a route or a goal in mind to shoot that. And when you're hiking, you want your hands free to be safe and be able to walk around. And that's where that little gear comes in handy, where you kind of put on your side and your hands are free. So it's great.
Nice. Yeah, I hope we're able to see some of those pictures from your hike, because yeah, that looks like quite the endeavor. So maybe we'll get to see some of those pictures later on, or something from a similar trip. Chebs, did you have another question?
Yeah, I was just curious. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about, because I don't know if you watched the Britney Spears documentary or any one of the documentaries out there on whether it's Tiger Woods or Britney Spears, or I don't know if you watched any of that, but it really gave me a deeper perspective into, you know, paparazzi photography. Now, tell me what's the difference between chasing that shot. So what's the difference between chasing the shot versus going out there doing freelance, like you say, you know, you're going around, say in an urban space, and you know, you're just taking photos, but you don't want to take too many. So kind of break that down for us a little bit.
Maybe I could just, I think what you're trying to get at, Chebs, is like when you shoot for pleasure and your own motivation versus when you're given an assignment or something like that. And so I'm wondering if, Nick, have you ever been given a photography assignment?
I have, yeah. For me, I'm really mostly a hobbyist, but I have shot about 4 weddings for friends and family, and that's probably the only experience I have with more of a specific goal in mind with with other people. And so for that, it's a lot. For a wedding, you're running around. There's certain key moments you want to get that are important, of course, walking down the aisle, the cake, all things like that. So in that case, you may have a shot book in mind, or a shot notes in your pocket. Say you need to get these shots, which is very different from, like I said, walking around Toronto or anywhere, following the light, seeing what you see, or scaling a mountain. It's really or a hike. I don't do very many mountains, but yeah, it's the purpose. The reason why you're there. For a wedding, you're there for one purpose, to get these certain shots. For a walk around Toronto, it's there more of a leisurely activity, whether it's exercise or just getting out and getting some fresh air.
Great. So tell us and our viewers more about Get Out and Shoot. What's your role with the organization, and how does this group help convene and develop the photography community of Toronto?
Sure. So as I said, I moved to Toronto. I didn't mention too much about that, but I moved from Halifax to Toronto in 2012 for a job, and I used photography to kind of explore the city, to get out and see what's out there. And for about 2 years or more, I did that on my own for the most part, doing this solo around the city, doing different things, but mostly alone. And eventually I found this group online called Get Out and Shoot Toronto. And I was looking for a group like this for a while, but I always kind of found ones that are a little bit older generation, kind of like I wanted people that are my age, so I can relate to them. And I found this Get Out and Shoot Toronto. And the first meetup I went to, I was very nervous to talk to people, because I'm a bit of an introvert. And it was very nervous for about, I would say, 5 minutes. And then people came over to me and said hi. It was a really great thing. And to join this community of people that are all different ages, styles, skill levels, made a big difference. And so I was in the group for about 8 months, and I was going to most of the meetups. It's so what they are, they're weekly meetups around Toronto, shooting all different things. And it's a pretty big group. It's over 10,000 now. Usually each meetup is about 40 people plus that show up to the meetups. But at a certain point in time, they asked me to be one of the hosts. So I basically would organize meetups, tour people around, come up with ideas. And then I became a host around 2018. So that was, a good amount of time before I was there, to be where I was actually hosting meetups. And that's just that. It's, again, hosting meetups, making sure everyone there is welcome. Keep in mind the people that show up are like me. They were nervous to be there. So you want to make sure they're welcome. If you see their new face, you talk to them, ask them about what they like in photography, and make sure they feel like they are sort of getting out of the meetup what they want, whether it's learning things or just being people. So yeah, that's been my role. So it's been, of course, changed a lot right now during COVID. We haven't done very many in-person meetups. We're doing a few online virtual meetups like Zooms, but I haven't been doing very many of those. More for me, it's more been the in-person meetups up until the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, and we can talk about the impact of COVID a bit later on, because yeah, it's definitely a factor to say the least nowadays. And I'd be interested in hearing more about like the average size of or the number of people showing up to these meetups, as well as explaining an explanation around how Get Out and Shoot works not only with different places in the city, but different times in those places that lend themselves to some really impressive photography.
Yeah, so in terms of size, it's now, I think it actually is over 11,000 members. It's on meetup.com. And I could talk for hours on just meetup.com, meetups in general, because it's so important to have that kind of resource. But in terms of the meetups, again, about 40 people plus. We had some where 80 people show up, some where 10 people show up, some are limited based on certain things. But we work in terms of like times, time of day or certain times of the year. Of course, each meetup has a theme usually, whether it's a sunrise shoot or a sunset shoot, or if it's a snowy owl shoot, which I've done a few of those. That's how the sort of time comes in, but it's a weekly thing normally, and it's all the above. We want to make sure we cover all different types of photography, so everyone feels like they have something to come out to. And now we have to do limits sometimes on people because we can't always have 80 people walking around with us. We have to make sure it's limited for some reason. So yeah, did I answer your question there about the time?
Yeah, because I was interested. I kind of saw the details of one meetup that was happening a while ago, and it was at kind of a waterfront type setting specifically for the sunset.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Time and space, both at the same time, leading great photographs. So I have a question about how different cities that Nick has occupied have inspired his photography. But did you have anything to ask before we get into that, Chips?
No, not right now.
Yeah, well, just like Nick has explained, grew up in Halifax. Now he lives in Toronto, was kind of taken with the urban landscape while in Toronto. And you've also lived in really interesting, not lived in, but visited cities such as Las Vegas, Nevada, and Veradero, Cuba. And I was just wondering what different photographic opportunities you have found in each of these cities.
Yeah, so one thing I think I'm missing out on is the Nova Scotia photography, because I grew up there. And I really grasped photography after I left. So I have plans to come back and do a lot more photography back in Halifax to show the beauty of Nova Scotia and Halifax in general. But in terms of different things, I guess they all have their own. One thing about a big photographer is you see beauty in sort of everything, whether it's a desert or a frozen fjord or something, or a beach in Hawaii. You can find the light there. So in terms of where I visited, probably one of my most fond memories with traveling photography was Australia. I went there back in 2015 or 2016. And that was when I was really getting into it. And I had my new good camera, and I was doing kind of missions on my own as well as with my friends that were visiting there, and really kind of exploring and doing things for the photo, not necessarily just for traveling for other reasons, but shooting that. And one of the things I noticed with like Sydney, Australia, is you see this opera house your whole life in photos and videos. And my first thing was going down the subway from the suburbs and then coming up in the city from the subway and being in this crazy city I've heard about, and then walking and all of a sudden seeing this opera house like in front of me. I could touch it. That was pretty special. So like, you know, finding these landmarks you've seen around your whole life around the world and shooting those is really fun. And so, like I said, every place I've been to, whether it's Cuba or Vancouver or Las Vegas, there's always things you can find just to kind of bring that beauty back to your people that you follow or people that follow you or your community.
I want to ask a question, and I think this is something that probably everybody struggles with. How do you store all the photos you shoot? What's up with storage spaces? I mean, these guys are making us pay for all kinds of cloud spaces. Like, so what do you, I imagine as somebody who does it professionally, you have all kinds of photos. So what do you do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of photos. I looked back, I think I have like 90,000 photos over eight years. Yeah. And also I'm not a professional, I'll put that out there. I'm more of a hobbyist, amateur. But yeah, but I have a local hard drive for all my raw photos. So raw photos are the digital negatives. They're much bigger than like your regular JPEGs you'd have. So I have a 4 terabyte drive for all of those photos for most of my library. The rest are the edited final photos, the JPEGs you'd post on Instagram or on your website or Facebook. Those I store on my Google 2 terabyte drive. So I have my edits stored in Google as well as my drive. So for me, my edits are more important than the original raw photos, because I feel like I may not go back to the old ones. I do sometimes, but it's a combination of local hard drive and then the cloud Google storage.
Mm. Do you every now and then tell us a little bit if it's something of a tradition or if it's just something that you do, you know, when you have some downtime? But do you ever sort of, you know, do a deep dive into your archives to see what gems you might find that, you know, were kind of long forgotten?
Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, especially during COVID where you're locked inside. I spent many nights going back to the old photos in my hard drive and edit them again because my editing skills, I think, improved, or my technique or style has changed. So I'll go back and see a photo that I took maybe 4 years ago and edit it again and maybe get something different. So yeah, totally. I go back to my old photos and go in the archive and try something new with them. Yeah.
Do you find like, and this is just coming from somebody whose interest has recently peaked in photography, partly because of this show and trying to find out, equipment and stuff. Do you, how do you deal with, do you find that, first of all, that because of the pandemic, there is now a lot of new technologies available for, like, you know, photography, digital, you know, how to digitalize digital use, and there's a lot of equipment around now. And also, did you find out that during the pandemic you shot more than in a regular time?
It's so yes and no. I shot less probably in Toronto, in the downtown area. Maybe staying away from big crowds of people, and you know, Toronto is a pretty bad area for in terms of cases of COVID. On the other hand, I did meet a friend to the group to get out in Toronto, and we're doing kind of bi-weekly trips outside of the city, and we weren't doing that so much before. So we're making a point of getting out of the city and shooting a certain waterfall or a certain beach, and so that's been more of a tradition now because of we're so locked down in the city. So it's different in terms of technology. I can't think of technology, but I can definitely say that there are far more like podcasts like this out there for photography. And because you have more time at home, you may find yourself watching more podcasts about learning about techniques or what have you. So yes and no, there's different ways that you can say the pandemic has helped and hindered photography.
Yeah, naturally, I guess it's a mixture of things. So speaking about storing and looking back on some of your photos that you've taken over your 90,000 snaps, let's take a look at some of them. Chubbs, if you could kindly make Nick a co-host, he'll be able to share his screen and show us some of his work.
For sure. There you go.
Thank you. Let's see if I can do this without breaking something. Let's see, share. I think this should work. Let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, perfect. So I have a few photos here that I've put together over my kind of career so far, if you want to call it. And so this one here is my first trip to Western Canada. And this is back in 2014. About a week before this, I decided I'm going here. It's so beautiful. I want a nice camera. So I bought a brand new camera for this trip, which I guess you could say kind of launched even further in my interest in photography. And so this shot here is a shot in Jasper, Alberta. Jasper, yeah, it's Jasper National Park. And this is a situation of being in the right place, right time with the sunset and the colors hitting the mountaintops in the background, the still water and the reflections. It all came together to make a really good shot, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It almost reminded me of like Lake Louise in Banff National Park, like, the mountains on one side and the forest on this side. But I was just thinking about that, and then you said it's in Alberta. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Jasper is very close to Banff. And during the day, this water here is actually turquoise color. So it's a beautiful area during the day and during the twilight like this.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a beautiful moment that you were able to capture here. Yeah, with those pinks from the sunset and then the greens from the very dense trees, kind of some marshland there with the still water. Yeah, this is an amazing photograph.
Thanks. And it's all layered too. There's a lot of layers here, which I think are important. You show depth with the tree line there in the front, and then the different layers of mountains in the background. Right. I think that's something that makes a good photo.
Yeah.
Great. Next one here is, I guess I have to click on it, is this is my trip I mentioned going to Australia.
Ooh.
So my friends and I did a camping trip just south of Sydney, Australia. And there's this highway that kind of straddles this cliff here. And they took me here, and I thought it was a very beautiful area with the road there, and it was in the morning, it's kind of misty in the background there. So again, I love water. This kind of brings in both water and mountains together. And yeah, again, it highlights the idea of like going somewhere on a trip for a certain shot. I've seen this highway and photos later on. I didn't even know about it until they told me. I went there, but I've now seen this area, this highway in many shots since.
Mm-hmm. Does it remind you of any place, Chubbs?
It just reminds me of things that I see in my dreams.
Or perhaps the Cabot Trail just down the road from you.
But you're right. This reminds me of like when I drive over the Nova Scotia Highlands. I look down at the Brador Lakes, and it kind of reminds me of some of those angles, cliffs right there into the lakes.
And your depth of view on this is also beautiful, Nick. Like you can see all the way down that coastline.
Right.
And a lot of definition all along.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So now fast forward a few years. This is what I think my second Get Out and Shoot meetup as an attendee. This is back in 2018. And so the meetup here, as I mentioned, usually they have some sort of theme or challenge. And the challenge here, this is called the Queen Street Viaduct. It's on Queen Street, crosses the river into the east side. And the challenge here was to photograph the light streaks of cars, and in this case, streetcars going across the bridge. And so the reason why I put this here, because this is kind of my start of my Get Out and Shoot journey. And also the first time after this meetup, I went out for a drink with them. The tradition normally is you do the meetup and then afterwards you go somewhere for some food and drinks. And that's half the reason some people come out for the social aspect. This is the first time I actually went out with them after this meetup, and I realized it could be more of not just a creative outlet for photography, but also a way to make some good friends. So this one is important because it's the start of that, I think.
That sounds like you nailed it in both regards on this night, because yeah, this is a very interesting photo that demonstrates motion in a really kind of interesting situation where a lot of the other people, for the most part, seem very still. And then there's just this explosion of motion in the middle going over this bridge. And then, yeah, that helped you feel integrated into the photographer community. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I thought there's someone else coming in, so I'll move on then to the next one.
What's up, Jebs?
No. I just was concurring that it's a very interesting photo. I like lights, so anything that plays with lights intrigues me.
Yeah, and this photo here, again, you talked about gear. Most cameras have the capability to take the shot. It's simply a long exposure, maybe like 10 seconds. And most even phones now can do this. So it looks impressive. It's kind of cool with the street guard flying by, but it actually is quite easy to capture.
Can you tell us a bit more about exposure?
Sure, yeah. So when you take a shot, usually you have a shutter speed or shutter length, and that's how long the shutter is open, how long the sensor is capturing light. So if you have a really fast shutter, let's say you take a picture of a fan, you'll see the fan blade frozen in space in one place. A slow shutter is the shutter's open for a longer period of time, so it's capturing more light. And so what happens here is with this shot, it's a long exposure. So the shutter is open for about 10 seconds. So as the street car goes by, it's collecting that light and adding more and more light as it's open, but the bridge and the people are mostly still. So they stay as they are because they're not moving. So the light doesn't change for them. It's really, you're seeing the new light as it moves across the sensor because the sensor is recording for a longer period of time.
Nice. So not just still shots, but there's so much more you can do with a photograph.
Right. Exactly.
Nice. All right.
All right.
What's
So
the next
moving on. This here is an example of what you might see when you see a Get Out and Shoot meetup. You're going to see a bunch of people, again, all ages, all sizes, all skill levels, shooting something. And we often ask, is Drake over there? Is there you guys paparazzi? What's going on? It happens all the time. In this case, we're shooting Scarborough Bluffs. And I think this is important to show because this is kind of behind the scenes. At one of our meetups, this is what you would see. A great social thing, as well as a way to learn new skills, new perspectives, and just kind of share that way.
Yeah, I can definitely see myself joining a group like this. Would definitely feel like the beginner that I am. But this seems like lots of fun, and I would be interested in seeing the kind of other shots people are able to capture, and then pushing myself to take some really interesting ones as well. Do you ever get much competition for a certain kind of position, or like in one of these meetups?
No, I would say no. There's lots of room usually, and people are very friendly. But you mentioned like to compare shots. It's great because afterwards we have the meetup.com site and app allows you to post your photos afterwards. So we have this catalog of photos from all our meetups, from all our members, and so you can see what perspective they got during the meetup and compare. Or if you saw a shot you liked, you can ask them how they took it afterwards or during the meetup. It's also people that are coming in that are traveling, people that visit Toronto. They find a meetup and they go to it and they're gone the next week, but they want to kind of see the local sites, and the meetups are good for that. That's why I think people traveling should be aware of a site like meetup.com, because if you go to like San Fran or something, you could find a meetup group that's operating that week and join them and see something you wouldn't see normally, you wouldn't know about. So that's also a good way to use these meetups.
Nice. And so you'll be utilizing meetups for kind of other trips that you take in the future?
Right.
Nice.
I really like this meetup, this whole concept of meetups. And because you've said meetup a few times, in my head, it's there's a song that I have on my PlayStation game, and it's talking about meetup now, meetup, and that's the chorus is meetup now, right? And so Wes, maybe we'll do a little unfiltered meetup
I'm down. Yeah, exactly. We've actually convened quite a community on this show to this point, and so definitely, if we had an equivalent kind of a gathering, it would be a similar size. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Can you tell us maybe some other interesting conversations you've got into at the Get Out and Shoot group, Nick?
I think it's just it's everything. It's people. I think places like Toronto, probably more of a big city thing. It's hard to really make connections in a big city. So you need a reason to connect. People are walking down the street, they're in their own lane, they're doing their thing. Again, probably a big city thing. But when you have people together for one purpose, in this case, photography, you meet friends. You might find you enjoy, like, the same food or the same music, or what have you. So it's these meetups are not just photography, it's also connecting with people, making friends, and for all different things. I mentioned a friend earlier that I met. We've been doing more meetups every second week.
Right.
But now we're planning trips. Like I did a Quebec trip with them back in the fall. We're planning a trip to the Gaspé soon. And that was someone I met through the group. So it's a way to meet friends, to share skills, perspectives, obviously do photography, but that's why I mentioned I could talk about meetups for hours, because it could be a meetup on anything, pottery or politics discussions, anything. There's so many different things, and there is a void, I think, in Halifax. I did check. There are a few meetups, but there are no major photography meetups in Halifax. So someone should get on that. I'll join as soon as I go there.
Well, that is a surprise, since there's so many beautiful, places to take pictures in Nova Scotia, Halifax alone.
Exactly.
So yeah, that should get started.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, I was thinking about the same thing. Is there an app? Is there a Meetup app?
Yeah, it's meetup.com, and
Okay.
they have an app as well. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
All right, show us some more pictures.
All right, moving on. So here is one that was special to me, a meetup that we did. This is a meetup in Lower Bay Station in Toronto. You can see me, I'm wearing the same shirt, but just ignore that. So I've heard of this station. It's actually an abandoned station they use to connect the two lines in Toronto. And they use it for movies and TV shows now, and music videos. And also these are for training. But I knew about it. I knew that sometimes it's open up for the public to tour. And so I emailed the TTC, which is the Toronto Transit, and the transit company for all the transit in Toronto. And I asked if we could have our group down there and do a little meetup. And they agreed to, which was a surprise. So Sandy, right there in the middle with the vest on, she did our tour. And this one, I think, was a highlight, because we're getting in some area that no one can usually get to, and shooting this cool little abandoned subway station. And of course, everyone was very thrilled. We had to do a limit on attendee size, so it filled up within minutes to get here. But that was just a highlight in terms of access and in Toronto for me.
That would be really exciting. Yeah, getting access to that kind of open, condemned space. Probably some really interesting shots in there. Mostly fluorescent light, as far as I can see.
Yeah, we have some models too. There's two there. There's two girls there in the front that are friends of ours that are models, and they did some modeling for us down there for different shots. One fun thing was there was a fee, of course, and everyone shared the fee. We spread it out, but there was a fee to get to pay for a subway to go through, and it was like $1,000 an hour. So of course we didn't do that, but one happened to go through for free. We got a free subway out of it, so that was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. What's your next one?
All right, next one here is.
Oh yeah, I love
Oh, nice.
Toronto Raptors.
So we all know Go Raps, Go Toronto Raptors. They won the championship a few years ago, and after they won, there was a huge, of course, spilling in the streets. And I was prepared. I was ready to go. I had my gear. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know we were going to see this kind of thing, but I was ready. I was in the thick of it, and just trying to capture moments. I think the highlight here is the guy on top with his fist up. Of course, these people shouldn't have been doing this. This is breaking property and stuff, but it's going to happen. I'm going to shoot it no matter what. So that's what it is. But again, just capturing moments like this. This is a pretty big moment for the city. Not this shot, but of course the championship. So I want to make sure I document that. And I have plenty of photos also of this night as well.
Yeah, I saw a lot of those. And so I'm kind of wondering if you could explain why you picked this one to include in today's episode, because there's kind of some elements about it that I see. I'm just wondering if it's the same reasons why you chose this specific picture of this night.
I think there's a lot of reasons why. One of the things is the symmetry. It's almost like a V if you look at it, kind of going up to this one point on top of this guy in his fist. You're seeing some jerseys there. You're seeing people kind of, the one guy on the side climbing up. It's a still shot, but you can kind of feel the motion of people climbing up on there.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this one here. I like the building in the background to give like some scale, but I don't know. For me, it just seemed like this one showed the feeling of the night when I was there, and that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I really like it. It seems almost fluid down there at the bottom at the broader base, and then a couple pops of color. The guy with the kind of the jersey, and then also the hand, as well as that kind of spot of light over there on the tree, and then leading up to that point of the guy's fist. This is a beautiful photo.
Thanks.
There's something really cool about the dark background, like the darkness in the back, and then the buildings also dark with spots of lights from windows. It just makes it seem cool. Did you take this? What sort of elevation were you at when you took this photo?
So I'm a shorter guy, so I had my camera above my head, pointing up like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So I'm above the people that are around me and aiming it up towards the people on top of the bus there. So I was kind of like winging it a bit because I couldn't see the screen the whole time. I was kind of sort of spraying and praying, as they say, holding the shutter down and getting shots like this. And this one turned out, and it was sharp enough.
Big
Nice.
Cool. For time, I'll keep moving on here.
Yeah.
This one here is interesting because I guess for me, I'm kind of a weather nerd. My friends, family knows I love weather. I love following storms. And this was a bright, sunny day, hot, sticky day. And I was following a storm coming in Toronto, and I knew it was going to hit Toronto within a certain time. So I got out there. I had my rain jacket on. People were looking at me funny because it was like a hot day. I had my rain jacket on. And all of a sudden, I felt the gust of wind, which you usually get with a storm coming in, and it just downpoured. And I got a lot of shots of people kind of running, and this woman here was obviously caught off guard by the storm. But also, I put it here because this is one where you're seeing, one person kind of called out in a shot. And I like shooting people, but I don't want to put them in a bad light. And legally, you're allowed to shoot anyone you want on the street, but I don't always do that. In this case, she came across the street. We made eye contact. She was laughing hysterically, so she was having a great time, even though she's getting soaked. So it was a moment that I caught of this woman here. And again, it goes back to kind of putting yourself in the right place at the right time to get this, because 10 minutes before this, there was no rain. It was sunny and hot. So I just knew it was going to happen. I made sure I was there to capture it.
Nice. I do like the idea of you sitting there comfortably under an umbrella, taking this picture, and then having a laugh where she walks by. That's great that you guys connected, at least through your eyes.
Yeah, no, she if she was actually like upset or like really, whether she was too cold or something, I probably wouldn't have posted it. But because she seemed like she's having a good time, not a great time, but she made the best of it. That's why I thought it was okay to kind of use it afterwards.
Yeah. Cool. What do you have next?
Next here is, this is more of a luck thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
So putting yourself on the right place, maybe shooting
nice.
shooting the Pride Parade. This was not something I saw in the lens. I was shooting the people here. And afterwards I noticed this lady was poking that bubble, it looked like to me. I'm pretty sure she's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of a fun moment of this fun parade, and a moment where she just sees this bubble and she goes to poke it. I thought it was a cool moment. And again, it was a total luck thing.
Yeah, it's spontaneity through and through.
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on here, this is one that you guys should see or be more familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
This is Peggy's Cove. And the reason why I chose this one here is because I think sometimes people take the shot, they see the sunset. Behind this was a beautiful, colorful sunset, but often the shot might be in the shadows. So I took this shot and I focused on more of the shadows. I underexposed, and I think it's a cool moment. You're seeing what looks like it could be a family kind of walking on a day out at Peggy's Cove. and it seemed like a family there, some kids maybe walking on the one guy there. So I think it's important to kind of think outside the box, and instead of getting the one shot you think you should get, the sunset, think of something different. Look at the shadows, see what you see there.
Yeah, and then flip the color and see how it shows differently. That's great. That's some really good work.
This is Peggy's Cove, eh?
Yes, yeah.
The shadows, the people's shadows look like those illustrations of man coming from being a beast to becoming man.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
From ape to
From
man. Yeah.
ape to man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
cool.
notice that. That's a good take on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that in black and white too.
Yeah. Again, the colors were there, it was beautiful, but some things you have to like use the contrast, use the silhouettes to make something different out of the shot.
Hey, and just so you know, say hi back. Suzanne Cabrita is saying hi to you in the comment section.
That's a common friend of Nick and I.
Yeah, I thought as much.
Oh, hey. Thanks for watching.
Yes, and she's saying I have a travel meetup group too.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan of Meetup.
Yes,
I didn't know that. That's good to hear. I'd like to learn about that after.
And thanks very much for watching, Mom.
And Alexa, Dr. Dodge is saying she loves the one with the bubble. What a magical shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Again, that's all luck, and I was happy to get it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's part of great photography after all, I'm gathering. So
yeah,
that's
surprises.
Yeah, surprises. All right, let's see the last three before we get to some final questions here. Oh, that's
yeah,
beautiful.
we're almost through.
Oh,
so
nice.
this is a trip. So again, I mentioned my friend I met through the Meetup group. Again, a great way to meet people, and we've been doing our little journeys. This was a trip to Quebec. We had home base in Quebec City, and then we drove each day into the mountains above Quebec City. And this is what you would see a lot there, is a lot of these roads like this. There's highways you can take, but we chose the mountain routes usually to go through the mountains. And I thought this, again, talking about layers and composition, I think this photo does do that, as well as the signs that are kind of there in the shots in the foreground, the background. And it just shows the rugged nature of these mountains that are kind of in front of you.
Very nice. Got a little bit of mixture of our artificial environment and natural environment. Looks beautiful.
Right.
Yep. Leading lines.
Yeah,
okay, moving on.
Grayscale one you have here. Oh yeah, wow.
Wow.
So we're almost through. This one here is my favorite condition to shoot in, which is fog. What fog does to light is amazing. And whenever it's foggy, usually not home, I'm out in the street shooting, and spring is good for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some fog in spring. But this was a moment that I was walking downtown in the business district in Toronto, and I looked up and I saw these kind of beams of light coming from the building, piercing the fog. And I think this only works in black and white. Everything pops that way. So the point here is to always look up, I guess, when you're shooting to find things.
Yeah, and fog.
Always look up.
Way to play with light. Sorry about that, Chubbs.
No, I said always look up and occasionally put the camera over your head and just shoot.
Yeah. I'm gathering lots of lessons. I'll be able to capture these masterful types of shots myself soon. And that's interesting how fog does interesting things to light. Nick, I think that some of your East Coast innate inclinations working its way into your photography technique. And there's lots of fog out here to shoot. So I'll be happy to have you back and see what you can come with out here on the East Coast.
I can't wait. I'm going to do a trip around the province, I think, and just shoot wherever I can find. So I'm excited to eventually get back someday.
Nice. Chubbs and I are coming along with you.
Hey.
Yeah, we are.
Great. Sounds great to me. Last one here is a shot that I took. This was Canada Day last year, July 1st. This was a very early morning sunrise shoot. It was a 5:45. Not even wake up. It was when we left our place to go here, my friend Philip and I. And it's an area called Bluffers Beach near Scarborough Bluffs. And these kinds of shoots are hard to get to because it's so early in the morning. But when you're there, it's so rewarding because you can't get this kind of light. Even sunset light is different. Sunrise light is quite special. And here we had of course, the birds kind of skimming the water there. And I like that as well as the ripples in the water. I think it came together to be a nice photograph. But again, the point here is to work for the shot. Getting up at that early, it's not easy, but you have to work sometimes and push yourself to get out and get these shots like this.
Well, that's beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing your work with us, Nick.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was so beautiful. Question about this last shot. Were you in the water or on shore when you took the shot?
I think I was just on shore. I wasn't getting wet, luckily.
You already woke up early. You didn't have to get wet, right?
Exactly, yeah. It was summer, it was July, so I probably would have been fine to walk in, but I didn't go in. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, as sad as I see these pictures go, if you just want to take down your screen share, and then we'll just cover off some ending questions. You know, we kind of already touched on how the COVID pandemic has impacted photography, or at least patterns of regular patterns of photography. You know, less people meeting up in groups and more time to look through your collections. But I'm interested in how you feel photography has impacted the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's known in the public.
Well, there was a lot of scenes at the beginning around the world. Obviously, first coming out of China about what was kind of happening there, and I guess it was something we would see that could be coming our way. It was these really frightening scenes from there, and I think I didn't do a lot of walking around so much during the pandemic because we were told kind of not to in Toronto. Like, you want to stay home and do your part and just not go out. So I was doing a lot of that, but I mean, seeing some of the scenes around the world, like empty streets, some horrific scenes, especially out of China at first, of people getting dragged around and, you know, thrown into hospitals and that's obviously horrible. I'm trying to think about what could be what would be thought of as a takeaway from that in terms of photography. I don't know. I think it was, for me, like, I think it was more of a learning time, you know, people taking this time to stay in and learn. I think that was the real takeaway. Of course, there's always, whenever there's things going on, whether it's natural disasters or like horrible things, riots, protests, there's always images there. And there certainly were those with the pandemic. I'm not sure how that affected or helped or hindered the pandemic. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just kind of increases the public understanding or the experience of what's going on in the pandemic. You know, I think about pictures that are taken of the hard work being done by frontline healthcare workers, you know, seeing what's going on inside of hospitals and those kind of things. And also different types of art that's being expressed during the pandemic, just to foster that sense of we're going to get through this, or informing people what's happening. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Chep.
Yeah. So this is about wellness. So is, you know, doing photography therapeutic, or is it all of the editing and producing that perfect shot? Which one gives you the most therapy, or is more therapeutic, I should say?
It's both. It's the whole process, I guess. Like for me, I mentioned walking around. Some days I'll have earbuds in my ear, listen to music, and I'm walking around and seeing what I find. For me, that's very therapeutic. And my style with urban photography is more fly on the wall, capturing the city as it is, not kind of being part of it. So I guess sort of documenting the city for me is quite therapeutic, and just getting outside. Like, there's always an excuse to get outside and get out of the house. That's also, I guess, a therapeutic. The editing process is different in terms of, you know, making something. That's where part of the creation happens too, and creating and being a creative person. But yeah, hiking, like, it's a good excuse to go hiking. I don't always like hiking, but I know that I can go hiking and get some shots out of it. Maybe I'll hike instead of not staying home. There's so many benefits of it, but yeah, I guess for me, therapeutic aspects would be just walking around the city and taking in the sights is quite therapeutic for me.
Great. Yeah. And talking about specifically that, walking around the city and taking in the sights, my closing question was, has your photography made you see your city in a different way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, when I first moved here, I used it to actually see the city. I didn't know a lot about the city. So I used it to kind of get out and see different neighborhoods. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one thing I think that it did for me is people always think of Toronto, for example, as a cement city, uninteresting, not very beautiful, like a buildings and cement and roads. But it's not that at all. And I think being part of a meetup group allows you to find those beautiful areas, those nuggets in the city, because there are so many. And so like it's finding those beautiful areas in an urban area that we wouldn't know about otherwise, but also capturing these moments in the city as well. Like, for example, a Raptors celebration, sharing those. So you know, people that follow me that maybe say that they aren't from Toronto, they may see some of these scenes on the news, but they may not get these moments that you might capture, and you're sharing them that way. So I think you could see the city differently through those photos, whether it's mine or others. I think that's what photography does, generally speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, so many pointers have been shared with us. We got to see some really impressive work from you, Nick. I mean, you're sharing advice like, you know, getting in touch with communities of interest, such as the meetup groups, you know, taking risks, being spontaneous, seeing what comes out of it. And but on the other hand, also doing the work to make sure you're in the right place, right time, planning to get some good shots. Any other pieces of advice that you were able to pick up there, Chebs?
Just the talk about, you know, you got to go out there and do it, and you learn as you go, right? You perfect the technique as you go. So for any person who's trying to venture into photography as a hobbyist, just get your camera, whatever the device is, and get out there.
Get out and shoot.
Get out and shoot.
Great. All right. Thanks again so much, Nick. You know, feel free to sign off. Chebs and I will just have a little bit of wind down banter here, and we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so
Really
much,
fun.
Nick.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Wow, that was great, Chebs. Another great interview.
Another great one, and I like this. I like that, you know, on this platform we kind of drag, you know, all different perspectives on various areas. You know, photography. Who would have thought we would have such a substantive conversation and learn quite a lot about how to do it? You know.
Yeah, but I had a good feeling that Nick was going to be able to support a substantive conversation on the importance of photography and what it can bring to community. And, you know, it is true, you know, on Unfiltered, we discuss everything from fashion to anti-fascism. So, you know, there's, you know, everyone's kind of inclination or interest or way of taking in the world, understanding it and sharing their understandings with people fits right into this conversation. And, you know, it's just amazing to see what kind of interesting conversations come out of people's personal interests and everything that people have to offer, this kind of a collective experience that, you know, is known as life.
Right. That's why we do this show, Wes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because we're both motivated and intrigued by life and all of the possibilities that it puts before us. So certainly it's been a great show. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you, Mama Wes, for all of your many comments. We really appreciate it and we love it. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in every Sunday and supporting us and the work that we do here. Feel free to reach out to us and come on the show. Let us explore something that is of interest to you or have a conversation that is of interest to you. That is what we like to do best. And we think this platform is the perfect place for that kind of exploration of your interest, conversations, and to bring others in. That is the way of life, and so it is the way we do things here at Unfiltered.
Sounds like we should start an Unfiltered meetup group.
We should. I'm serious. I think it would be really cool if we had one and we could document little parts of it and you know, laugh about it or comment further on the show.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, this is another example of how I felt that we were just hitting our stride in the conversation as it was coming to a close. We were really warmed up there. So I think we should have Nick back on again for a future episode.
I definitely think so, and I was gonna throw that in just when we were wrapping up there. But we're looking forward to another great month coming up, and we're gonna have lots of interesting shows for you. Wes, I think we should do one on 420. We should do a quick 420. You know, April is coming up soon, so I think that 420 we should get something going. What
That
do you
sounds
think?
good to me. I'll be available on that day. I know a few specialists that might be able to join us.
I think that would be wonderful. You know, dig deep into the flower.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I can't wait. The ideas continue to roll out. Happy that the viewers were able to join us today, and see you in the next one.
See you next week. And on the 25th, we have Uza, who's going to be joining us. Very, very interesting life story and other interesting work that she's doing. Next week, we're sort of still putting our show together, and it's going to be a surprise. You know, so we'll look forward to that. And thank you for coming to support us. Have a happy, lovely Sunday and a great week ahead.
See y'all.
Cheers. I'm your host here, Chuck McCollum. Welcome to Unfiltered. Welcome to Unfiltered.